Some places don't show up on maps. They don't have names, histories, or explanations, just fences, warning signs, and the uneasy feeling that you're not supposed to be there. And sometimes, whatever lives near those places doesn't stay hidden. Sometimes it follows you home. This is one of those stories. This happened a couple of weeks ago, and no matter how badly I want to convince myself it's over, I don't think it is. In fact, I think whatever started that night is still happening. It's just waiting. I don't live deep in the woods or anything like that. My neighborhood would probably be described as a nature-filled suburb. Lots of trees, deer wandering through backyards, raccoons knocking over trash cans, that sort of thing. It's quiet. Too quiet sometimes. One side of our house borders a wooded area. Calling it woods feels like an exaggeration, though. It's more like a long patch of dense trees and undergrowth that stretches about a quarter mile before hitting a narrow road on the other side. That road connects to another street, and beyond that, behind a tall chain-link fence topped with barbed wire, is something that has always bothered me. A massive body of water. Growing up, my siblings and I just assumed it was a reservoir. That's what made the most sense. There are no trespassing signs everywhere. Government property signs, too. The fence is tall, well-maintained, and clearly meant to keep people out. But here's the thing. Reservoirs have names. They show up on Google Maps, on Apple Maps, on public records. This one doesn't. It's just blank. A strange, empty space where something that large absolutely should be labeled. I've searched for it more times than I can count. Nothing. No name. No information. No explanation. Just water behind a fence that supposedly doesn't exist. My siblings and I used to joke about it when we were younger. Maybe it was a secret military thing. Maybe toxic waste. Maybe some kind of Cold War relic everyone forgot about. We laughed it off. But the older I got, the less funny it seemed. I'm on varsity cross country for my school, so I'm always looking for good places to run. My neighborhood itself isn't great for that. No sidewalks, blind curves, people driving way too fast. That wooded patch, though, is perfect. It forms a clean 2-mile loop. You start at my house, cut through the woods, hit the road that runs alongside the fenced water, then circle back around. Quiet, isolated, peaceful, or at least it was. As the season approached, I started running more frequently, pushing myself harder. Longer distances, faster pace. I ran that loop so often I could have done it blindfolded. The first strange thing happened during one of those runs. I was on my way back through the woods, nearing the home stretch, when I heard something behind me. Just a faint rustling at first. Leaves shifting, twigs snapping. I slowed down and glanced over my shoulder. Nothing. I told myself it was probably a deer, or a fox, or literally anything normal. This area is full of wildlife. I finished my run and went home without giving it much thought. I should have. That night, I went to bed like usual. During the summer, I always sleep with my windows open. I love the sounds of nature at night. The cicadas, the distant owls, the wind through the trees. A few hours later, a thunderstorm rolled in. Not a gentle one, either. This was loud, violent, the kind of storm where thunder cracks, so close it rattles the windows and makes your chest vibrate. Rain hammered the ground like it was trying to drown the world. I was half asleep, drifting in and out, when I heard something that didn't belong. At first, it was so soft I thought I was imagining it. A faint sound, almost lost beneath the rain. Then I realized what it was. Crying. Not animal crying. Not wind. Not rain hitting something weird. Human sobbing. I lay completely still, my heart slowly starting to pound. The sound didn't fade. It got clearer, more defined. And the longer I listened, the more certain I became of where it was coming from. Right beneath my bedroom window, then a voice cut through the storm. A woman's voice. Weak, shivering. Can you help me? I'm cold. I've never moved so fast in my life. Fear didn't freeze me. It launched me out of bed. Every rational thought disappeared. All I could think was that someone was outside in the middle of a thunderstorm, hurt or stranded. I didn't wake my dad. I didn't grab my phone. I ran. I burst out the front door and sprinted around the side of the house. Rain soaked me instantly, my clothes clinging to my skin. Thunder roared overhead, and there she was. A woman crouched directly beneath my window. She was wearing white, some kind of dress or nightgown that clung to her body, soaked through. She was barefoot, her knees pulled to her chest like she was trying to stay under the small overhang. She looked wrong. Not injured, not scared, just still. I slowed as I approached her, my instincts finally starting to scream that something wasn't right. I asked if she needed help. That's when everything changed. She snapped her head up and locked eyes with me. And then she sprang to her feet. The speed was unreal. She rushed toward me with an explosive burst of energy that made my stomach drop. I braced for impact, but mid-stride, she hesitated. For just a fraction of a second. Then she veered sharply and bolted straight toward the woods. I stood there, frozen, watching her disappear into the darkness between the trees. She ran impossibly fast, faster than I could sprint on my best day. Her bare feet didn't slow her down at all. I didn't chase her. I ran back inside, shaking violently, and woke my dad. To his credit, he believed me immediately. We locked every door and window in the house. We talked about calling the police, but it was already after midnight. Searching the woods in a thunderstorm felt pointless and dangerous. We decided to deal with it in the morning. The next few days were normal. Too normal. My dad and I told ourselves it had to be a homeless person, or someone having a mental health crisis. It was unsettling, sure, but explainable. Then a week later, everything fell apart. I was out running again, following my usual loop. When I reached the road near the fenced water, I glanced through the chain-link fence out of habit. And I froze. There was someone down by the water's edge. A woman. She was sitting with her feet dangling in the water like it was the most natural thing in the world. My blood turned to ice. There was no way she could be in there. That fence is 10 feet tall. Barbed wire at the top. No gaps. No holes. No broken sections. I must have made a sound, maybe a gasp, because she suddenly turned her head and looked straight at me. It was her, the same woman. She stood up and ran toward the fence, slamming her face against the chain link. She smiled at me, and it was the worst smile I've ever seen. Wide, unblinking, wrong. I yelled that I was calling the police. Her smile vanished instantly. She turned around and dove straight into the water. I called 911 immediately. By the time the police arrived, she was gone. They took my statement and said they'd investigate, then told me to go about my day like normal. I haven't seen her again, but at night, I hear movement beneath my window. Not crying, just footsteps. And I know, this isn't over. I'll start by saying this. Sometimes the worst terror isn't in what you see. It's in what you know might be there, in the silence between sounds, in the feeling that you're being watched, even when you can't see anything at all. I'm middle-aged. My marriage is on life support. My wife and I fight constantly over things I can't even remember anymore. Some nights, it's yelling over bills. Other nights, it's over something stupid, like the way I left the coffee cup on the counter. By now, I can't tell which argument is real and which is just the residue of years of frustration. That night, I couldn't take it anymore. We'd been shouting again. I stormed out, the anger still coiled in my chest like a living thing. Usually, I grab a hotel room when I needed space, but not this time. I didn't want her to follow. I wanted absolute distance, isolation, silence. There's a property I own out in the middle of nowhere, abandoned, forgotten, and mostly useless. I think it used to be a shooting range. Maybe. There's no one alive to ask, and the paperwork from the previous owner was minimal. He had died, and the estate was eager to sell. The building itself is odd. Concrete blocks, warehouse-style rooms downstairs, an office area upstairs. It's big, but only in the way an empty building can be. I've been meaning to do something with it, eventually, but had never had the time or courage to go deep inside at night. I decided that night would be the night. The drive out there was strange from the start. A storm was brewing as I drove deeper into desolate roads, and the clouds hung heavy and black, obscuring the moon. The rain was light at first, a drizzle that pattered on the windshield, and then, almost like someone had flipped a switch, it turned into a torrential downpour. Visibility dropped to less than 50 feet. My headlights barely cut through the curtain of rain, the roads slick and winding. By the time I arrived, the storm was in full fury. The first thing I noticed was the sound, rain hammering the metal roof of the building like thousands of tiny hammers striking steel. The wind was picking up, whistling through cracks in the concrete blocks. I parked in what used to be a parking lot and retrieved my spare set of keys, hidden behind a loose piece of siding for occasions just like this. The building smelled of dust, rust, and wet concrete. I could hear water dripping somewhere in the corner, running down into dark, forgotten drains. I settled on the cot in the upstairs office area. It wasn't luxurious, but it was dry, and at that moment, dry felt like a luxury. For a brief moment, I felt peace. The storm was oddly comforting if you ignore the isolation. The sound of rain on metal has a way of swallowing the world. Out there, nothing could touch me. Nothing except maybe my own imagination. That illusion shattered quickly. It started with a soft crack, like glass breaking. My heart jumped into my throat. I froze. Every muscle tensed. The sound echoed through the empty building, but I couldn't pinpoint it. Not downstairs. Not the roof. It had come from somewhere in between. I grabbed the hunting rifle I kept hidden, mostly to prevent my wife from knowing I owned one, and crept down the stairs, tried to move quietly over the wet concrete. The building was silent again. Too silent. I checked every room downstairs methodically. Every closet. Every corner. Shadows pooled in the corners, stretching long and wrong in the dim light. And then I found it. A boarded-up window in the back room. One of the boards had a hole punched through it. Glass scattered across the floor. That's all. No signs of entry, no footprints, no tools. Nothing. I stepped carefully around the glass. How had someone, or something, made a hole large enough to break the window, yet small enough that no one could slip inside? My brain refused to accept anything ordinary. My pulse was racing, but my mind went to the most logical conclusion: vandals. Someone had thrown a rock. Someone had fled when they realized the storm would cover their tracks. I went back upstairs, keeping the rifle close. I tried to convince myself to rest, but the storm was loud and my heart wouldn't stop hammering. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, moving somewhere below me. Not heavy, but not soft either. Each step sounded precise, calculated. I froze. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel it. The building suddenly seemed too large, too empty, and the dark corners suddenly felt alive. I waited for 5 minutes, holding my breath. The sound stopped, leaving only the storm outside. I crept back down to check again. Nothing. Not a shadow. Not a sound. The broken window remained untouched. I told myself I was imagining it, that my nerves were getting the better of me. But then, something heavier. Different. A dragging sound. Across the concrete floor below me. Slow. Intentional. That was when fear hit in full force. I realized, with a cold clarity, that someone or something was in that building, and it was hiding. I grabbed the rifle and yelled into the darkness. My voice echoed off the walls. I'm armed. I know you're here. Leave now, or I'll defend myself. Silence. I shouted again, louder this time. Still nothing. I realized then that I had no way of knowing what I was up against. A human? Possibly. Something else? The thought made my stomach turn cold. The room seemed to shrink, the shadows stretching closer, moving like smoke in a slow wind. Instinct screamed at me to leave, but I was stubborn. I wanted answers. I needed to know if I was losing my mind or if something real was happening. I went outside into the storm, flashlight in hand. The rain drenched me instantly, soaking through everything. I scanned the perimeter. No tire tracks. No footprints. No vehicle. No signs that anyone had entered or left. The property was untouched, and yet I knew something had been there. When I returned upstairs, drenched and shaking, I tried to convince myself of rational explanations. Old buildings creak and shift. The storm creates illusions, masks reality. I am alone, sleep-deprived, angry, emotional. I lay down on the cot, trying to sleep. That's when I heard it again, a scratching. Not a soft scraping, but deep, deliberate. From somewhere below. Something moving against walls. Something trying to shift them or move through them. I grabbed the rifle again and crept to the top of the stairs. My flashlight barely penetrated the darkness. The sound stopped. My ears strained, picking up every drip of water, every groan of concrete, every whistling draft. Then the room went cold. Not a cool draft. Cold. Iced down my spine, numb fingers, the sensation of breath on the back of my neck that wasn't mine. Every instinct screamed at me, run. And then I realized there was no rational explanation. The building was empty, locked from the outside. But the cold, it was inside with me, watching, waiting. The dragging sound returned, louder, closer. Furniture being moved? No, something heavier, something alive. I yelled, hoping to startle whatever it was, hoping to reclaim some control. I am armed. I will not let you hurt me. Silence. Then a whisper, low, almost drowned out by the storm. Just behind me, on the stairs. My name. I froze. My name. I don't remember thinking. I just reacted. I grabbed my jacket, shoved the rifle back in its hiding spot, and ran. Rain pelted my face. Wind tore my clothes. Lightning split the sky ahead of me, illuminating the endless dark roads. I didn't look back. I didn't stop. I never thought a normal Friday night could turn into something that makes you question everything you thought about reality. But that night, well, that night was different. I live in a rural area. I mean, really rural. To get anywhere interesting, you have to drive at least half an hour. There's nothing but farmland, cornfields, the occasional abandoned barn, and dark, winding roads. People out here are used to silence, to isolation. I liked it that way most of the time. But sometimes isolation is terrifying. My buddy Leo and I had decided to hit a house party a few towns over. Nothing big, just a chill gathering in someone's backyard. Beer pong, music, some people dancing, nothing to write home about. College why, but I didn't care. I drove because I was DD for the night. Leo, predictably, had been drinking. He got louder as the night went on, philosophizing about nonsense, flirting with random girls, and occasionally yelling at the music. By 1 a.m., I was ready to leave. Leo, on the other hand, was having a blast. I had to drag him to my car. He stumbled, laughed, cursed, complained about the music, about the roads, about my driving. Classic Leo. The drive home was slow. The rain had started lightly when we left, but as we moved further into our territory, the drizzle turned into sheets of water, blurring the yellow lines, soaking the fields, making the roads slick. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. I slowed to 30 on roads I usually tear through at 60. Leo kept whining, finally demanding to stop because he had to piss. I figured, fine, he could do it. We pulled over onto a random stretch of road surrounded by cornfields. Or at least I thought it was corn. It was too dark to tell. Halfway out of the car, he practically fell onto the wet gravel, disappearing into the blackness. The storm made it almost impossible to see him after 10 feet. I pulled out my umbrella, locked the doors, and stepped 20 yards from the car. The rain soaked me instantly. My shoes were useless in the mud, but I didn't care. The air smelled of wet earth, lightning crackling faintly in the distance, wind rattling the stalks of the cornfields. And then I heard it, a rustling. Not the wind, not the rain, something closer, something deliberate. I turned toward the sound, but saw nothing. The darkness felt thick, almost physical, pressing against me. I called Leo's name, but only the storm answered. When I finally turned back to the car, he wasn't there. Panic set in. He should have been right beside me. The storm was deafening, but it couldn't drown out my heart pounding. I ran to where the gravel met the fields, scanning for him. A faint silhouette appeared, a figure moving oddly fast, too straight for stumbling drunk. Before I could react, a sharp scream ripped through the air. It was female, panicked, terrified. My stomach dropped. The sound wasn't far, but it was impossible to locate precisely. The cornfield swallowed it, echoed it, twisted it. Leo finally stumbled back into view, soaked, coughing, eyes wide. "Someone's here," he shouted. I saw a person in the field. Someone else. I froze. My mind spun. We were alone, or we thought we were. Then the tire. I had barely started driving when the car jerked sharply to the right. My heart skipped a beat. I pulled over. My rear passenger tire was shredded, a screwdriver embedded deep into the rubber. Someone had done this deliberately. Someone was out there, watching us, waiting. We scrambled to change it in the rain. My hands shook uncontrollably. Every shadow in the cornfield looked alive. Every rustle made me whip around. I wanted to run, scream, call the cops, anything. But the storm swallowed all sound, all sight. I had no idea who or what we were dealing with. And then Leo said it. That woman, I think she did this. She's not human. I laughed at first, thinking he was drunk, but then the memory hit me. A woman, pale, long hair plastered her face from the rain, standing at the edge of the field when I had glanced up. Too fast, too quiet, too deliberate. Her eyes, I don't even want to describe them. We finished changing the tire, got back in the car, and I drove. Slowly, carefully, but the terror wasn't over. Every turn, every corner, I half expected her, or them, to appear. Then came the flash. A lightning strike illuminated the field to our right. I swear I saw her again, standing motionless, staring at us. Not human, not quite. Her arms were long, unnaturally so. Her head tilted at a wrong angle. Her lips curled into a smile that shouldn't exist on a human face. I slammed on the brakes. Leo screamed. I swerved, barely keeping control. The next stretch of road twisted like a nightmare. Rain, mud, darkness, and fear merged into a single sensory overload. We pulled over at the next safe spot. Leo was shaking. I was shaking. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Then he said it. She's playing with us. I didn't want to believe him, but everything I'd seen, heard, and felt told me he was right. Someone, or something, was orchestrating this. She lured us out here. She punctured the tire. She screamed at just the right moment. Everything was calculated. We debated. Go back. Call the cops? Leave? The rational part of me wanted to flee, hide, never look back. The irrational part, the part that refuses to let mysteries go unsolved, wanted to chase her to understand. We argued. Leo wanted to go back. I refused. Something primal told me that going back would be worse. Something told me the storm, the isolation, the darkness, all of it was part of her game. And games have rules. Rules that, if broken, cost lives. We stayed in the car, drenched, heart-pounding, listening, waiting. But nothing came. The scream hadn't returned. The fields were silent except for the storm. The next morning, we went back to the spot. Sunlight revealed nothing. No tire. No footprints. No signs that anyone had been there. It was like the storm had erased every trace of her. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she wasn't real. Maybe it was a prank, a coincidence, some sort of hallucination induced by the storm, alcohol, and fear. But Leo is stubborn, logical, and drunk or not. He insisted on what he saw. I can't explain it, but I believe him. Weeks passed. Nothing happened, but the memory didn't fade. I started noticing small things, shadows in the corners of my vision, rustling at night, whispers on the wind when no one was around. My dreams were filled with fields, darkness, rain, and her smile. Always her smile. I avoided driving on that stretch of road after dark. I avoided traveling alone. Every shadow made my heart hammer. Every sudden sound made me jump. Then, one night, I got a call from Leo. He sounded frantic. "She's back," he whispered. "She's watching. I saw her by my window. I don't sleep anymore. Not properly. My dreams are invaded by her face, that impossible, twisted smile. I know I will see her again, because I know what I saw. I know what she is capable of, and I know she's patient. The terrifying part isn't her appearance. It's that she's still out there, waiting, watching, playing a game we didn't know the rules to. And I have no idea what happens if you lose.